Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me to my show, Listed by Mina Kuper, 98.1 FM, 1220 AM. We're about real estate, trust, probate, divorce, and more. I started the show because people wanted to know about all these things. People Google things, and all these things come up, and they sometimes don't get the right information. It's a big process, and I think having information to our listeners is really important. You can also listen to us at 98.1 FM, 1220 AM. You can also, if you have Facebook, go to KHTS Hometown Station Facebook page. And if you don't have either one of those, the radio or Facebook, you can download the app at KHTS Radio and find us there, listed by Mina Kuper. Uh, Today, I have a really amazing guest. She's very knowledgeable and has a lot of experience, out of a box thinker. And Christina Lewis with Christina Lewis Law Firm. She's an estate and trust attorney, and she really knows her stuff. She crosses her T's and dots her I's. People, today look for a way to do it online, and they may not think that they have anything. But when push comes to shove, there's so many details that go into planning, right? Because weird things happen in life sometimes that we unforeseen circumstances. And Christina, I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, I think the first thing to start off is talking about misconception of who needs a trust.
Yes, I think, when you think about an estate plan, the picture that comes into mind, a lot of people think about the sort of, picture hanging on top of a mantle of really wealthy people, and they're also old.
Right.
So that's a huge misconception that people have,
Yeah.
and also think people think like estate plan. Oh, it's stodgy, and
Yeah.
it's far from that. And I think one of the things that's really important is for people to realize that if in a plan, the word estate plan really is almost a misnomer. You kind of need a plan. And it doesn't have to do with the fact of any assets. So if you're over the age of 18, you should have a plan. That's what I tell a lot of people. And at minimum, what you should have is actually the healthcare directive and the power of attorney. That's at minimum for anybody over the age of 18. Because once you are over the age of 18, as we all know, you're a legal adult,
Right.
right? Your mom and dad can't really make any decisions for you legally
Right.
suddenly.
And if they ask, they're not going to tell them.
Correct, correct. And then the other thing too is I tell people too, right, is if you are a when I say it's really for everyone, everyone needs a state plan, even young children. Now you can't children themselves, young children under the age of 18 can't plan,
Right.
but their parents can plan for them.
They're guardians. Right.
Yes, should anything ever happen. So I always tell parents, hey, look, you've got to put a plan in place because if you don't, the last thing you're going to probably want, if should anything happen to these parents, is your children to go to someone you didn't want.
Right.
And I joke about the fact of like, yes, we all get along, but sometimes, once in a while where, someone may not be crazy about their mother in law. That may be the last person you want your children with, or the very irresponsible uncle.
Right.
And
Right.
then, worst case scenario, if there are no family members, the last thing you're going to want is your children to be a ward of the state. So those are all things again that parents have to keep in mind. And then I also have the other end of the spectrum, which are parents with young adult, grown up children, and but most importantly, they're unmarried.
Yes.
So if they're unmarried too, again, the last thing you want is to be stuck in a position where you can't make healthcare decisions, or without that power of attorney, you can't access your child's financial information, as well as these days everything's also digital
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I recently had a client reach out to me and said they can't access their child's you know Apple account.
Terrible.
So it all of these things need to be in place. Without a power of attorney, if your child is alive and something happens to them, you cannot access it without it.
It's interesting you mentioned that because it was about 2 years ago. I was involved in a probate with a family and an attorney, and we were going to sell the house, but they had to get a hacker
Hmm.
because Apple, even with written notices from the court who the executor is, would not allow them to access the accounts and try to reset it with death certificates. They actually had to get a hacker to get in there, and they finally did because there was accounts there and they knew the account numbers. It was online. They just couldn't get in
Right.
there.
And even, you know what, and like I said too, even with all the sort of, you go to court to petition to have access and everything, there is a lot of bureaucracy
Yes.
behind these digital contents. And a lot
Apple,
of it from their point, I
yeah.
understand from a legal standpoint, they're afraid to release it because there's a liability if they
Yeah,
release it to the
of
wrong
course.
parties.
Right, right.
Right. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through. And so I also tell people, too, this is why it's so important. There are services out there that actually keep track of passwords. And
Oh,
in
right.
the event that something should happen to you, it basically triggers of knowing who to then forward those information to.
Right,
They have
right.
actual apps
I
like
think
that.
that's a wonderful because some
Hmm.
people, especially elderly parents, may not want you to have access to things. So
Not
sometimes
yet.
paranoia sets in. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
there are different things that go on, or the person gets married and they may not trust the spouse and coerce them into doing something that may not be appropriate. And so, for safety reasons, it's always good to have a third party babysitting thing. So, when the babysitter leaves and they need to deal with things, there's access to everything.
Correct. And I mean, right now, we're just talking about people with no assets, right? I mean, this is the simple, basic first thing you need to do as a grown adult, frankly.
Right.
I've had, stories where parents come to me and they've sent their child off to college and something has happened. And guess what? Once your child becomes incapacitated, your adult child becomes incapacitated, there is no, suddenly being able to execute that power of attorney. There's a lot more difficult hoops
Right.
you
I
have
mean,
to
so
jump through at
who
that
makes
point.
decisions? The doctors based upon the best for the child
No,
or
well,
the
for the
adult
medical
child?
care, yes. So you actually are sometimes a lot of times at the mercy of that, right?
Right.
Which is unfortunate because you may know what your child's wants are, but if your adult child wants are, but if they haven't written it down or signed it legally, your hands are tied.
Yes.
But as I said, this is all we're talking about people originally right now, right? The basics of a plan. I don't, like I said, I'm always hesitant to call an estate plan because people always automatically assume, oh, I've got to plan once I have an asset. Now, for
You're an
those,
asset, yourself, your
yes,
body. Who's going to take
absolutely.
care of you? You're going to let them
Absolutely.
just take you away, no man's land.
No, and that's true. And
Yeah.
actually, there are conservationships that kind
Right,
of we
but
talk
right,
about too.
third
But
party
that's
conservatorships that will make sure that you have direction
hmm
and
hmm
that they follow.
and again, you don't want it to be the person. I'm sure that they have their needs and their wants. So the only way to guarantee that is to put it in writing.
Right.
So once we were just talking about people without assets.
And then
What
you have
about
divorced parents with minor children.
absolutely?
So who's going to
And
make a decision? You may think that they should do this, and the other one is that.
well, this kind of the interesting part about that is this actually kind of falls a little bit within family law as well. I'm not a
Interesting.
family law person,
Right,
but I
right,
am an estate planning
right.
person.
So that's interesting. But can you put that in an estate plan? Let's say a couple gets divorced, right? And they have a couple of kids that are underage.
Yes. And absolutely you can say who you want your child to go to, but
Who's the one that says it?
the issue is if you have depending upon the custody.
50-50.
That is the
Right.
key.
Right.
If parents have 50-50 custody, the surviving parent will then normally have that full
Yeah, yeah.
custody at that point. However, you can always put other things in your estate plan that says in the event that the other parent predeceases me and now you have one parent left, at that point, that's very important to say who you want your child to go to.
Right.
So,
Yes. And that's really, really important. And so, how do you discuss having a trust in place with an unmarried child? That's an adult, right? Because sometimes they could be a little difficult in that conversation, right?
absolutely.
Because they know it all.
So, when you have anybody who, not just a married child, I say when you have anybody now who do have assets, right? The key part everybody hears about it, like, oh gosh, you want to avoid probate, right? But there are certain thresholds that actually then trigger that probate process.
Right.
For one thing, California just raised the limit April 1st. So anybody who died after April 1st, 2022, this year, the probate minimum is 184,500. If they died before April 1st, 2022, it was 166,250.
Ah,
So if you had assets over that amount, it automatically triggered probate.
wow.
Okay. You had to do things through probate, which you can only imagine. Everybody knows that it ends up being a very expensive process and also a very protracted process because you are at the mercy of the courts.
So what happens? This is a little twisted, right?
Hmm.
But not unusual, probably. Kid lives in Colorado. Adult children live in Colorado. They help the parents that live in California have a house in California, put a trust together with a Colorado attorney that they sent a person to notarize the trust
Right.
for California parents, but the children live in Colorado. So
So
how
that
does
there
that?
may be a question of whether that's even really truly valid, because if the asset's in
Right,
California,
right.
you're going to have to do the trust administration in the location of where the asset is.
Because I've heard that people,
Yes.
call me for various reasons, and someone in another state that I know had this issue
Right.
uh, that there was a Colorado estate plan and trust, but they've never seen anything except a notarized document that said nothing. They're now in elder care court
Yeah.
because they're telling the mother to sell the house,
Correct.
and she's not at full capacity, and she signed a contract, but saying she does not want to go. And then she keeps on saying maybe she'll sleep in the car.
Oh, that's not good.
It's yeah. So obviously there's some missing links here, and so I suggested that they go in the state that they are and go seek an elder care attorney, and see how they can remedy and give her what she needs.
Absolutely. One of the things is I tell people too, when you're looking at, I get a lot of families that come in together.
Uh huh.
And as an attorney, I have to make it clear to
Right.
the children that their parents are my clients,
Right.
right? And then I have to explain a lot of things such as attorney-client privileges
Uh
and
huh.
everything. And it's interesting because the more you kind of sort of hash it out with the parents, the more you realize, yeah, the kids may have bought them in, but they don't want the kids in their business,
Right. Right. Because they're
right?
gonna get into it potentially.
Now, there is occasionally where everybody truly is copacetic and it's
Right.
fantastic,
They're
but
cool with
that's
it. Right.
very, very rare. That's that minor,
There's always
less
like
than
that one
10%.
little thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like
And it's
uh,
also, I always tell people too, you got to be
I want that
careful.
ring. I think
Well,
I should have the ring, not you. And it becomes a
right.
situation.
And it's also, you know what else too, is that initial meeting that I meet with my clients, they have to trust me and tell me
Right.
all the information.
Like everything,
And,
right?
and I mean everything,
Yeah.
skeletons in the closet,
Yes.
literally,
Yes.
right? I've had a situation
Children out of
where
wedlock.
that,
Because, they
a,
come out to
a
play if something happens. They're part of the
yes,
party, a blood
absolutely.
related child
Yep. So
or
unless you,
adoptive child.
correct. So unless you specifically mention in your trust that you're just there inheriting
Right.
that child, they literally will have a potential. They
Access.
absolutely can,
Yes. Right.
petition to say,
Right.
hey, no, you left me out.
Right.
But one of the things that I always tell people when they come in with their parents, and I have to gauge the room, and I will ask parents like, you know, I will tell children too, is like, I need to have this conversation right now. Thank you for bringing your parents in, but I need to have this conversation right now with your parents.
Right.
And once we discuss things that, don't have any confidential issues, we will bring you back in.
Right.
And it actually kind of sometimes though throws the kids off because
Right.
they're
They're
like,
like, what do
wait,
you mean?
I
Took
bought
them
you.
here. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
That's what that's.
But I've got to make
Right.
it very clear to them, like who my
Yeah.
client is. Now that also includes, for example, I have parents who will pay for their child's estate plan, and then I have to do the other way. I'm like, I need to talk to your child. I
Yeah.
know you're
Right.
paying for their estate plan, but unless your child gives me express permission to be
Right. Because
part
they're
of,
18 or over, then
absolutely,
they need
absolutely.
written permission for that.
Absolutely. It's always very challenging to make clear to
Right.
people who my client is,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's not
I
always the
can
person who
imagine, and then you
pays.
get stuck in this weird
Yes.
feeling. It's like, oh goodness.
Yes. So, as I was saying, going back to the whole probate thing, if you own over right now, if somebody had died today and they own over 188,250, that number I'm sorry, 184 or
Four.
500. Sorry about that.
Uh-huh,
184
uh-huh.
500.
It triggers probate.
It will trigger probate.
Now, if it's below that, what happens?
There's something called a small estate affidavit that you can take care of. And again, it's still proactive. You've got to, sign these affidavits. And often that's just a lot of times what people have done is they've left cash in a bank account.
Yeah.
Right. But most people, as we all know, California, real property, you rarely get anything that's going to be under this 184 500 amount.
Yeah.
So I tell people, if you own a house,
That's it.
you're subject to probate if it's not in a trust.
And it's the current value, not what they bought it for.
It is the current value.
Right.
And also, by the way, probate doesn't care that there is a debt on it or a mortgage. So, I tell people it's the gross value.
Right.
So even if your house is worth $1 million
They don't
right now
discount that
and you still
rate,
have
right.
a $750,000 mortgage on it, guess what? They count it as the 1 million.
Right. They don't care about the debt. That's secondary. That's not
Correct.
part of the party.
Correct. And when I tell people also how expensive it can be, probate itself, the fees that are associated with probate is statutory.
Yeah.
So I give the example of, again, the $1 million. Just Google probate calculator and put that $1 million in the probate calculator. It'll tell you that basically the state can be hit with up to $46,000 statutorily
Right.
off the top.
That's crazy.
So now imagine that $1 million scenario where you have $750,000 debt on the house too. Now you're minus 250 plus minus the
2 minutes.
minus
2 minutes. They gave me the fingers.
Okay.
Both fingers, not one.
I got it. Minus the minus that amount
Yes,
of the
yes,
probate fees,
yes,
right?
yes.
Now, what is your beneficiaries left with?
Right.
Not much.
Right. Exactly.
So a lot of it can be taken care of through a trust.
Yes. And so we're going to be breaking, and we're going to be back with more because this is going to get more juicy. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Jerry Holt at Brook & Sons Inspections, with over 40 years of experience in the construction industry, has performed thousands of home inspections. Jerry Holt, once a city building inspector and general contractor, knows exactly what you need to look for when buying a home.
Serving LA, Ventura, and Orange counties.
Call Brook & Sons with any questions. They're here to serve you. Call Brook & Sons Inspections at 747-336-9849 or email at brookandsonsinc@gmail.com for your free quote.
Mark J. Marcus is a bankruptcy attorney in Burbank. He's helped his clients eliminate debts, stop foreclosures, and wage garnishments. In Chapter 7, 13, and Chapter 11 bankruptcy cases in the greater Los Angeles area since 1991. He is a certified specialist in bankruptcy law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization. If you're facing debt problems, such as mortgages, taxes, credit cards, debts from divorce, medical, and others, contact Mark to schedule an appointment. 818-509-1173.
Richard Wang is an attorney and founding partner with Viridian Mortgage, a residential mortgage broker specializing in Disney-level customer service for residential purchase and refinance transactions. Richard leads a team of dream makers that prepare buyers to present the winning offer while securing the most competitive loan terms and in industry-leading turnaround times. Ask Richard Wang about their no-income and zero down payment loans for medical professionals by calling 408-828-5609 today.
Are you looking for help with your online marketing? Do you need a professional website design? Do you want to increase your sales and get more leads? Then you need Abby Perez, CEO of Digital Concept. Abby has 15 years of experience helping businesses with all of their online marketing needs. She and her team will work tirelessly to get you the results you deserve. They offer a free in-depth analysis. Call Abby Perez and the Digital Concept team today and let them help you take your business to the next level at 800-531-0872 or visit digitalconceptmarketing.com.
Skyline Smiles is a full-service, high-tech dental office located in Skyline Ranch Plaza on Plum Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. Dr. Harleen Graywall, founder and CEO, provides full-service dentistry as well as dental Botox for TMJ issues. Skyline Smiles strives to provide the best dental experience for you and your family. Visit Skyline Smiles Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or call at 661-244-4036.
Mina Kuper is a certified realtor focusing on trusts, probates, 1031 exchanges, divorce, and much more. She's a specialist. Mina has published books on inherited and divorced properties and business dissolutions. Ready to sell? Call Mina Kuper. Need your property renovated? Mina Kuper will help. No out-of-pocket expense. Pay at escrow. Mina Kuper, Keller Williams Realty, serving Santa Clarita, Ventura County, LA County, Orange County, and San Diego. Call 310-345-8500 or go to listedbyminakuper.com.
Your hometown station.
KHTS is the only station I listen to.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to Listed by Mina Kuper. We're about real estate, trust, probate, divorce, and more. We're 98.1 FM, 1220 AM. If you're not listening to the radio and you have Facebook, you can follow KHTS Hometown Station page. And if you don't do that, we have an app. So you have to watch. There's no way for you not to watch. You have a phone. I know that. And it's KHTS Radio. I am a licensed realtor in New York, California, and Arizona, and I certified trust and probate realtor. I was going to say lawyer. I got confused. It's towards the end of the week. And, you know, I like working with families and the attorneys and helping everybody move on. And having a good experience is important to me. And that's why I have Christina Lewis here back to tell us more about what the new plan is going into the trust and estate planning and the taxes.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
You know, before the break, we were talking actually about probate and the cost of probate.
Yes.
You know, as I said, you know, if you had a $1 million estate, you're looking at least, you know, with a $46,000 in terms of statutory, both the attorney's fees and the executor's commission.
That's if it's smooth riding.
Yes,
Right.
that doesn't actually also include,
Right.
I tell people, you know, that's the statutory fee. That doesn't include other, you know, estate administration
Right,
costs.
ancillary.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, whenever you can, you try to, if you, that whole, you know, a pound of, an ounce of cure is better, an ounce of prevention is better than the pound of cure kind of
Yeah.
situation. This is one of those.
And look, people get health care insurance, right? Most people have insurance if you get sick. This is the same thing. It's
Right.
an insurance plan of knowing you're insured that you have a plan. It's
Absolutely.
like, would you
You
wait
don't
to
want
get
to-
sick and then
yes.
call Blue Cross or somebody and say you're
Right.
sick and you need an insurance
Right.
policy?
You don't want to be chasing after.
No.
Is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
my goodness.
Right. But you know, again, before we're talking about California probate
Yeah.
and the cost that it's associated if you don't put it into trust. Now, another thing that could possibly happen is, you know, for those that don't put assets into a trust, you can be subject to also federal estate taxes. So the thing right now is for most people, the federal estate tax is 12.06 million.
That's if you don't have a trust.
No, for just no,
Just
it's
in
just
general.
anybody before you get hit with any estate
Okay.
tax, right? So before last year was 11.58 million. This year, as of January
Inflation.
1st,
Lovely.
12.06 million. It's going to keep going up now
Inflation.
until 2026, where this is going to sunset and go back down to about 5 million with inflation adjusted. So, you know, last year I remember hearing in a different webinar that meant that amount meant probably in 2026 it'd probably be about 6.5 million.
Right.
But with the way inflation is going, I heard the other day somebody give a seminar on this where probably by the point that 2026 comes around, it's going to be probably closer to about 8 million. That where the state tax exemption will be. Now that's also to say we don't know who's going to be in office.
Right. And that
Right.
has a big impact.
Absolutely. So if a Republican is probably going to be in office, we may have a slight chance of, you
it
know,
being a little more
yes,
larger.
absolutely. But if it's, you know, the other party, that at the same time, you probably are going to be rest assured that it probably will go down to that amount.
Right.
And, you know, what's interesting is people always mistake federal estate tax with probate. Probate itself is not a tax.
Right.
People always think about, oh, California has a state tax. No, California does not have a state tax. Now, there are other states that do have a state tax or even inheritance tax. And how that works is basically either if it's a state tax, it's the state paying for the tax, or if it's inheritance tax, it is the person who inherited the property paying that tax.
Right.
That's the difference between the two names. So in California, there is currently no estate tax. Now, I'm sure people have heard rumors that they're trying to push for, possibly California having an estate tax. We'll see if that happens or not. I mean, there's so many other taxes going on right now.
Right.
Just recently, as we all know, the Prop 19 was pushed where property taxes will be increased now when basically you pass property to your family.
And they don't live in it. Right.
Correct. And forget the whole Prop 58 being allowed for non-primary residents.
Right,
That's
right.
completely gone after February 15th, 2021.
Yeah,
You
it's a revolving door.
absolutely.
But it's good to start somewhere. And, what's good also, my team, I have bookkeepers and accountants and CPAs that work with me on doing the trust returns. And when someone passes away, they may not have all their ducks in a row. You don't want to look for too many people if they're available, the people who have been involved in the person's life, the deceased life, and they can take over and give us papers to justify everything that's going on. If not, we can do that rather quickly. We're equipped to do that so that the probate, you don't want to hang out there. You want to move forward and
Right.
close everything up, get the house sold, get all the numbers together, and move forward. It's so important. Too many chefs in the kitchen spoil the broth. But, we're also able to, a lot of people, even though there's money and the heirs have money themselves, they don't want to pay for certain things. My vendors will do junk removal, will clean up the whole place. The gardeners, whatever it takes, we get paid in escrow.
Oh, that's great.
So we don't have to wait. They don't have to worry about
Right.
Johnny and Susie fighting who's going to pay
Right.
to get the junk guy over there and get everything out or whatever. Because I deal with a lot of out-of-state executors also, and I make it easy for them.
Right. So that's actually a scenario where you probably aren't having necessarily a taxable estate because
Yeah.
it probably doesn't hit that 12.06 million. I've got to tell you, most Americans don't right now have the 12.06 million, but guess what? When 2026 rolls around, there's a high possibility that I
Interesting.
have a lot of baby boomers who've saved up and have
Yes.
invested in. I have tons of
Or
clients.
YouTubers.
Yes,
YouTubers
I have
going to get old
tons,
too.
absolutely. I have tons of clients who have, real property
Yeah,
too that can total that, closer to that 8 million that we were talking about earlier, right? And I tell people, then people kind of ask me, well, how much do I have to pay in taxes?
Right. They
And-
always ask that, right?
And the thing is right now, it is currently, if it goes over the state tax exemption, you're paying 40% that amount over that exemption,
wild.
right? So think about that's
That's wild.
higher than your income tax.
That's insane.
right? That's something you do not want to give up. Now, even worse, I tell people I currently have a situation. This is for Americans, U.S. citizens. Okay, if you are a non-U.S. citizen, you don't have that luxury of that 12.08 million. You have 60,000. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
60,000 in estate tax
Well,
exemption
well.
before IRS comes knocking on your door. And this is really kind of an unfortunate story. Recently, I just had a
Oh, right.
client-
We were talking
Yeah.
briefly about that. Oh,
client come into my office, and her sister had passed away suddenly.
and she was young.
She was very young, under the age of 30, and she had real property. Fortunately, it was fully paid, so there was no mortgage, at least, right? But it was a piece of property here in California, and it was certainly over the $60,000. And she herself was Canadian, so that she was a non-U.S. citizen.
Right.
So right then and there, two things have happened. She had no estate plan, which meant automatically she's going to be subject to probate. And then, so that's going to be money coming out for the probate.
Wow.
And then on top of that, you are suddenly hit with that estate tax exemption of 40% over the 60,000. So, this was actually not even a big piece of property. It was, it
Yeah, well,
was
it doesn't have to be big to be over.
correct. As long as it was subject to probate
Yeah.
because it was over the 184 to 500 that I had said earlier, right? So automatically it got subject to probate. But now also it's over the 60,000. So automatically now it's also subject to
Oh, good
federal
Lord.
estate tax.
How sad.
When this estate administration, because there was no trust, so you don't call it a trust administration, you call it an estate administration, is
Right.
going to be over, the family's not really going to have much left.
Much left, right? And that's why, if you know, you can diversify and buy some things in Arizona.
Yes.
I will help you.
Yes.
I have a lot of property in Arizona. We cash flow on it.
And with the thing is too, you can plan ahead even as a non-U.S. citizen.
Right.
There are
Yeah, of
strategies and
course.
ways
You're allowed
to do
to buy
that.
property and do all kinds of
Yes,
things here.
but to also avoid though
We have a
that
treaty
estate
with
tax.
Canada as well, and London. Certain
Correct.
countries, we have really great treaties when it comes to tax. You don't get double tax.
Yeah. So what the IRS can tax on is only property in the United States.
Right.
So if she had any property, in this case too, she had a life insurance policy, which was in Canada.
Ah.
They can't tax on that. They can only tax, fortunately, on the property that's in the United States. The asset that's in the
Wow.
United States. So, it was just a very sad scenario where if she had done the proper planning, and as I said, she was under 30. So you're thinking, gosh, how young? You're never, I
You
say,
never.
in this case, you're never too young to plan.
That's right.
Right?
Because stupid, crazy things happen in life.
We don't know when.
Right.
I always tell people who also do trust for the first time, I'm very honest with them, said, look, you're probably going to amend and restate this trust at least once in your life.
Yeah, because
at
things
least once.
change. You get divorced or you get remarried.
Life
or
situation,
Life
correct.
situations happen.
And then
you
the
move
law
to
changes.
the laws change.
Right?
That's right.
So
that's
then
right.
suddenly your trust that was drafted to the
outdated.
current law. Yes, absolutely. But then I kind of get then the client goes, then I don't know, why should I do this now? Why should I do this now if I'm going to have
because
to
what
amend
happens
and
if something
rechange it?
happens tomorrow?
So I kind of throw this back at them. I said, you know what? We will draft your estate planning documents and we will make sure that we sign them right before you die, the day before. And then they realize how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah, that's just
because nobody has a crystal ball of
right.
knowing
You
when
can't
they're
do
going to
that.
pass
right,
away.
Right.
And then usually the client says, okay, fine, I'll sign on the dotted line now, today, versus let me just hold off on doing this. Estate planning is very much, I kind of call it like, we all drag our feet on certain things in life. Like,
It's not like the first thing you get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and let me go do this.
Exactly. And it's the same thing as our health, right? This is more on your financial health versus your physical health, right? We on the physical health side, I'm sure none of us are very jonesing to go for that annual exam because most of the time, I don't know about you, but right now, probably not so great numbers on my cholesterol. I know how my blood pressure these days, but you just got to do it because it is not a situation where on the physical health side, you want
need
to
to
find
face
it to
the
it.
music, but better to do it pre
Correct.
anything happening
Correct.
than after the fact.
Yeah. And so that's the same thing with
That's
estate
right.
planning.
Right.
You don't want to be in
And
a
you feel
situation.
good once you get it done, and you know what it is. You know it's all
Yes.
done and sealed, and you're good, and you know where you stand, what your health wise, and your paperwork. You can sleep at night.
It was interesting during this whole COVID period.
Yeah.
All the estate planning attorneys suddenly got a lot of phone calls.
Right, because people were thinking
Because
about
mortality was literally in your face everywhere.
And, especially when you're over 40, you think about it. You start thinking about it.
And there were a lot of people that, we didn't know when COVID was coming suddenly, and we didn't know then that person would just suddenly die because of COVID. So all of a sudden, we had a lot of calls coming in, realizing I need to get things in
And
place.
those are examples of unforeseen circumstances.
Yes.
Who knew that we were going to be in this position?
Right. And what was funny too was for me, or a lot of other estate planning attorney, because of COVID. So we're in this COVID lockdown, but then people need to do their estate plan. So how did we do this?
Zoom,
Right. We suddenly had a different way to practice law.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was done up to a point, and thanks to digital age,
It became
you
more
can-
proficient. I mean,
It
became,
did.
Yeah.
And especially living in LA, it was fantastic that nobody had to get in their
Right.
car, right?
Yeah, it was
I mean,
nice. It kind of spoiled people a little bit.
a little bit. So we were able to do everything planning wise via Zoom, phone conference calls, up to a certain point. Because unfortunately, in California, there are still certain estate planning documents that you cannot
Because they don't know
execute
someone,
digitally.
if someone is there coercing you to do something.
Right. So,
background.
the practice is it's not required. This is a misnomer, but it's not required. But you do want your trusts, notarized and your wills witnessed.
Is it good to have a separate EIN number for your trust?
So the whole EIN number for a trust actually doesn't occur normally on a revocable trust. It's actually when it becomes irrevocable that you will need that separate EIN.
And why is that?
Because you right now, when you're alive and you're using that revocable trust, it's your social security number. And obviously after you pass away, we can't continue to use your social security number. So all the income of the assets underneath this trust need to be technically under this new EIN.
I see.
Reported under this new
Because
EIN.
I think special needs trusts have an EIN. Right?
That's different. So as I said, that's an actual different type of trust,
Right,
not
that's
not a revocable trust.
Revocable, right.
That we're discussing that
that,
most people are getting done.
Yes.
And actually, it's funny that you talk about sort of that special needs trust. That's an irrevocable trust, right?
Right.
Similarly here too, we can establish trusts. I get a lot of people who call me about sort of then the asset protection trust, because that's sort of a very similar thing, right? And I always have to take a deep breath when I get the call. I'm like, so I Googled.
Yes, everybody Googles and they come
right.
back and I say, I saw this.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
Googled
okay.
about this. And so this asset protection trust, I need an asset protection trust done for me. And I just have to step back and I have to say to people, well, California legally does not recognize an asset protection trust for that person who is for themselves.
Right.
You can do it for a third party, but you can't create your own asset protection
Is that
trust.
like getting a life insurance plan for a third party?
A little
Is
bit
that similar?
a little bit, because under the probate code, 15404, it's against public policy
Interesting.
for you to basically, try to hide your asset,
Right,
and then
that's just-
but then you're still controlling it. That's why.
Oh, that's too much fun to try to hide
yes.
things.
So California doesn't allow it. Now that doesn't say, that other states, such as Nevada, for example, they allow it, and it's
They
basically
allow a lot of things in
Mhm.
Nevada.
It's we call it the DAPS, the Domestic
Yes.
Asset Protection
Yes.
Trust, right? Those are allowed outside of in certain states outside of California.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people just think that, I Googled, I should be able to create this asset protection trust, and let's get it done. And I have to tell them, not in California,
Right, and they're like, what do you mean? And
Yes.
it's so it's like a mirror, right? You kind of see it that way, and it sounds a certain way, but there's another way that it's called and what to do. It's not called an
yes,
asset protection.
It's not an asset protection trust. What you can do is there are certain asset protection strategies.
Right.
And you can, technically too, you can establish trusts that are asset protection for your children or a different person. You just can't establish it for yourself.
Interesting.
So that's the key. I think people don't
Right,
realize
that you can do it for your children. Can you do it for an
Absolutely.
adult child?
you can absolutely do it for anybody, an adult child, a young child.
Well, maybe I'll get a surprise. Someone left me something I don't know.
Exactly, but that's the whole point of a lot of these trusts. I mean, there are I say there's generally the three types,
Yeah.
right? There's the discretionary trust, there's the support trust, and then there's the spendthrift trust. All of those are ways so that you say you put money for your child.
Yes.
Basically, a creditor normally can't access it.
Interesting. And we will be back because we have to take a break.
Are you looking for help with your online marketing? Do you need a professional website design? Do you want to increase your sales and get more leads? Then you need Abby Perez, CEO of Digital Concept. Abby has 15 years of experience helping businesses with all of their online marketing needs. She and her team will work tirelessly to get you the results you deserve. They offer a free in-depth analysis. Call Abby Perez and the Digital Concept team today and let them help you take your business to the next level at 800-531-0872 or visit digitalconceptmarketing.com.
Jerry Holt at Brook & Sons Inspections, with over 40 years of experience in the construction industry, has performed thousands of home inspections. Jerry Holt, once a city building inspector and general contractor, knows exactly what you need to look for when buying a home.
Serving LA, Ventura, and Orange counties.
Call Brook & Sons with any questions. They're here to serve you. Call Brook & Sons Inspections at 747-336-9849 or email at brookandsonsinc@gmail.com for your free quote.
Mark J. Marcus is a bankruptcy attorney in Burbank. He's helped his clients eliminate debts, stop foreclosures, and wage garnishments in Chapter 7, 13, and Chapter 11 bankruptcy cases in the greater Los Angeles area since 1991. He is a certified specialist in bankruptcy law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization. If you're facing debt problems such as mortgages, taxes, credit cards, debts from divorce, medical, and others, contact Mark to schedule an appointment. 818-509-1173.
Richard Wang is an attorney and founding partner with Viridian Mortgage, a residential mortgage broker specializing in Disney-level customer service for residential purchase and refinance transactions. Richard leads a team of dream makers that prepare buyers to present the winning offer while securing the most competitive loan terms and in industry-leading turnaround times. Ask Richard Wang about their no-income and zero down payment loans for medical professionals by calling 408-828-5609 today.
Skyline Smiles is a full-service, high-tech dental office located in Skyline Ranch Plaza on Plum Canyon Road in Santa Clarita. Dr. Harleen Graywall, founder and CEO, provides full-service dentistry as well as dental Botox for TMJ issues. Skyline Smiles strives to provide the best dental experience for you and your family. Visit Skyline Smiles Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or call at 661-244-4036.
Mina Kuper is a certified realtor focusing on trusts, probates, 1031 exchanges, divorce, and much more. She's a specialist. Mina has published books on inherited and divorced properties and business dissolutions. Ready to sell? Call Mina Kuper. Need your property renovated? Mina Kuper will help. No out-of-pocket expense. Pay at escrow. Mina Kuper, Keller Williams Realty, serving Santa Clarita, Ventura County, LA County, Orange County, and San Diego. Call 310-345-8500 or go to listedbyminakuper.com.
I love it.
Right on!
Your hometown station.
Hi, welcome back to Listed by Mina Kuper. We're about real estate, trust, probate, divorce, and more. 98.1 FM, 1220 AM. Also can watch us and listen to us on KHTS hometown station page. And you can download the app at KHTS Radio. And we're going to get to the juicy part here about Googling. We love Google. We all love Google. And we can just imagine when people Google all day. There was a funny little short about what people Google, and they said the weirdest thing. I can't repeat it. But, you know, people try to do it themselves, right? Because they don't think they have much. And when you Google, there's all kinds of things that come up. And tell us, Christina, what do you feel about doing it yourself?
I tell people that let's look at your situation, right? Your situation is not going to be the same as my situation. So what makes you think that this one-size-fits-all trust is going to work for both of us? So when you go to these self-help sort of draft your own trust places, that's exactly what they're giving you is a cookie cutter trust.
Right.
None of it is tailored to your situation, nor is it supposed to think out worst case scenarios. My interviews and my initial consultations with clients, I tell people, you know, I need to know your family dynamics. I do trust administration as well, the other end of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I see all the messes that actually occur when I get a trust that's not drafted by an attorney and they did a fly-by-the-night. There's also those paraprofessionals that are drafting trusts. It's not to say that they aren't efficient, but what happens is things fall through the cracks.
There's a loophole.
Absolutely. And they're not meant,
No.
they cannot practice
They're not
law.
bulletproof.
Yes, and they also are not allowed to practice law. So
Right.
Unlike an attorney, you can actually, you know, sue them for malpractice, right?
That is
you
interesting.
have-
How do they do that since it's not, you don't have to be a lawyer
because
on
they are allowed
Google.
to fill out
Paperwork.
That's exactly what I say.
But who?
Cookie cutter, right? So if
then-
it's cookie cutter,
yeah.
that's not a problem. I actually had a situation where a client came to me and he wanted to amend his trust, and I opened his estate planning book, and literally on the first page of that estate planning book says, "We are not attorneys.
No.
We are a paraprofessional service and cannot give you legal advice." nor are we providing legal advice. That was literally the first page in his estate planning book. And you know what? He never saw it because most
That's
of them
alarming.
Yes.
You know, they're saying right there, you're out of luck, buddy. If something goes wrong, because we're not responsible telling you're not a lawyer, you agreed to this. You agreed to pay us $500 or whatever it is.
Yes. And that's literally you get what you pay for
Right.
situation. And this was actually also on top of the same client, right? It was kind of unfortunate. I asked him, like, where did you get this trust? He said, well, my church was doing this, trusts and a seminar
Yes, right.
and we were introduced to this group. In addition, what he had also been introduced to was a lot of times there's a lot of shady characters out there, including brokers. He
Yes.
then also was talked into a reverse mortgage. So when he came to me, not only was his estate plan not validly
older,
done,
gentleman?
yes, absolutely. So this is where they are very predatory. They're hoping that, he, like I said, he didn't even ever open his estate planning book. Otherwise, he would have saw that first page in his estate
Yeah.
planning book, right? So they're banking
But
on
he
the
knew
fact.
something was wrong. He came to you, right?
Well, no, he did, yeah, a little bit, but he also wanted to change some things, and that was really the
starting
impetus
point.
of why he kind of came to me. So, but when people come to me, I don't just take care of one matter. I need to look at the whole thing.
Yes.
And so as I was talking to him, I found out I asked him, I said, you have a reverse mortgage, and if one of the main assets is your house. By the time you pass away, you're not going to have this house to give to your children if you continue with this reverse mortgage, really, because of the equity that's going to be in it, right?
Right.
And I found out he didn't need the reverse mortgage. So it's
So he
fortunately
didn't need additional funds.
no, he didn't. So fortunately, I was able to actually refer him to somebody who's able to get him. And on top of that, he was a veteran. So with his veteran disabilities, all of the income that he was getting in his pension, he could afford to pay the mortgage the
Right,
good old-fashioned
right,
way.
right,
There was
right.
no
He didn't
need
need
for
the
a
additional
reverse
money.
mortgage.
Sounded good because you have an extra $2 or $3
Yes,
a month.
yes,
But
yes.
what does that cost?
But
At what cost?
also, what I found out was actually when I referred him to several mortgage brokers, one of them had told me, well, reverse mortgages, as people who are mortgage brokers, they get extra commission than a regular standard loan.
Oh, I see.
So there's an incentive to push a little bit of that reverse mortgage.
And then they have to look at the exit strategy when they get into it, right?
Exactly, but it's not for everybody. And in this case, he could afford the mortgage, so we ended up getting my mortgage broker ended up getting him a VA loan with a very competitive rate,
right, I
and
mean,
now he's got
right.
equity back belonging to him.
I mean, unless you're in dire straits, you're by yourself. This is all you
Correct.
got. You don't have money to live on.
Correct.
Then sure.
And and this was not the
Not the
scenario,
case,
right?
right.
And similarly too, the trust that was drafted, I had seen, which was basically not worth the paper that it was printed on because there were so many errors. You could tell they cookie cut it and pasted because there
my
were
God.
other people's names that he said, I don't know who those people
Oh
are.
no, that's scary.
So, it was just a very interesting kind of scenario. And I always tell people same thing that's going to happen on, when you do these self-help online things. When they ask you questions, right? They say, "Oh, well, it's very easy. We'll just walk you through these questions." People don't understand necessarily the question has other legal ramifications.
Right.
So, unless I'm literally sitting down with them and say, "Do you understand? Yeah, you can do this, but do you understand what this may result in?" An online service is not going to take that time to talk to you about.
It's interesting. When I pull title on some properties, other properties come up when I do comparisons. So many people don't have any property in their trust.
Yeah.
I can't even get into it, and we only have a minute left.
Yeah, and
so-
that's known as funding. So again,
Yes,
if you
it's
don't properly
interesting.
fund your assets into the trust,
Yes.
it is not
I'm
worth
going
the
to do
paper.
a
It's
whole big campaign
paper
on
it up.
that because people probably don't think about it. And Christina, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you for
Christina
having me.
Lewis has her own law firm. She's amazing. She gives you customized service. She is there. You're not going to talk to 25 people. She's there for you. You can call her anytime. What's a good way to get in touch with you?
The best way to reach me is I actually have a website. It's www.ChristinaLewisLaw.com. That's ChristinaLewislaw.com. Or else you can call my office at 424-267-6888.
Thank you.